This is the Small Town Big Talk Show, the only place where you can listen in on real life conversations about the challenges and the joys of living in a small town. I'm your host, Rebecca Undum, and each week a guest will join me as we tackle one topic that more than likely we're all feeling or have thought about, but of course, no one wants to talk about. Let's chat. My guest on today's episode is Ashley Berg. She is the owner of Main Street Boutique in Rugby, North Dakota. She's also the chamber president there. She's also the CVB director. So for those of you in small towns that don't have a CVB, we don't. That stands for Convention and Visitors Bureau. So she's the director there. And then most recently, she was elected to the county commission as well. So Ashley is a mover and a shaker, to say the least. And that was why I was so excited to bring her on, because what we talked about was how to be an ambassador for your small town. Ashley literally, and I told her in one point in the episode, I'm like, you're like an evangelist for rugby. And that honestly is the kind of energy all of our small towns need. And if we can learn how to be just a bit more like that, man, the things that we could accomplish. So can't wait to hear what you all think. Happy watching, friends. All right. Oh gosh, Ashley, I'm so excited to be sitting here talking to you. So, okay, so we were chatting a little bit here about all the things that we could talk about. And I've said already, like I've said this to a few guests, you're one of them. You're coming back and we're going to talk more about all these other things because you are so invested in your community. You know, not only are you a business owner on Main Street in Rugby, you are also, you know, highly involved in all these different organizations, you know, that really like movers and shakers in your community. You're one of them. So I love talking to women like you. And so even though this could sound maybe a little self-indulgent because we're going to be specifically talking about an event that I'm coming to support, but your energy and your desire to bring cool things and events to your small town, it's like unparalleled. I feel like I've almost never met anybody quite like you. And so I just feel like for all the women watching, I just want to talk through with you, like, what gets you excited about bringing events to town? This specific event that I'm coming for at the end of April, you know, where do you get your ideas from? Where do you get your inspiration from? How do you go about it? Just all the things, Ashley. Tell us all the things.
Oh, I like simply, who doesn't love a party? Who doesn't love getting together? Like that's where I think it kind of just first stems from.
Right.
Of just loving to be around people and getting people together. Obviously, like you said, I have a passion for rugby, so I love bringing people to rugby in general and talking it up. I mean, I always talk rugby up, especially if I'm gone. Like when I am talking to friends and they make a comment about work, I'm like, well, you should be moving to rugby. Obviously they laugh and they're like, but I'm like, I'm serious.
Okay. So before we move on, like we're gonna touch on, like, if you say something that sparks something in me, you know how I roll. I'm just gonna ask you about it. I think that's something that not enough of us in small towns do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
recruit people to move here.
Yes. Like just blatantly like that. Like you should move here. You should move to our small town. And I love that you do that, because what I feel like I sense sometimes is a little bit of an embarrassment. Not like you're actually embarrassed, you know, but like we've talked about this at our local economic development board. Like at some point we need to stop apologizing for how small we are, or you know, acting like we're apologizing for the things we don't have. And instead be like, are you kidding? Here's the things we do have, and you could totally do something, you know? I love that you do that. I love that you do that. So real quick background for you. Are you from Rugby originally?
I am. Yep.
Okay.
So I graduated from Rugby and I left for 14 years and then came back.
And lived bigger cities, I would guess.
So I went to college at Ohio University.
Okay.
And then did a mentorship. So I was in DC for a summer. I lived in Alabama, Minneapolis area, then Fargo the longest. And basically I just woke up one day, like I knew I kind of always had a drawing to go back to rugby, but I was so afraid of like my age and being too young and not knowing what I was going to do. And would I make any friends and that kind of stuff? Where would I find my niche? And then I woke up one day and thought, okay, if I stay here any longer, I'll have the golden handcuffs on where I was working. And it just, I had to do it. Like I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't sell my condo, but I knew I was moving. I put my notice in and made it work.
That's amazing. And you came back alone.
Yes.
You weren't married at the time?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep. My husband in rugby.
Oh, see? Hope,
Yep.
ladies.
Right?
Like, that's the thing too. Like we recruit young teachers a lot, and everyone's always like, who are we going to hook them up with so they don't leave? You know, like it's just all small town stuff. Right. But I love that. That's fantastic. So did you know him before or no?
I kind of, but not really like as an adult. I didn't know him well.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So yeah, so you go out and about and you're just like passionate about your small town. I mean, I love that. So there's the party aspect of it. There's the bringing people together aspect of it. But what else fuels you, you know, to highlight, not just highlight rugby, but bring like this event that we're doing. It's a retreat. Why don't you tell the viewers a little bit about it, you know, what this event is, how you came up with it, all of that.
Well, honestly, I think since I've been back there's, like you said earlier when we were talking, there was an article about how many women businesses there are owned and managed by women. Our mayor's a woman, county commissioner a woman, you know, things like that. But just getting together. So I kind of had a buzz in the back of my head that people were wanting something. Mm-hmm. So basically then it was just like, why can't I do it? Like the chamber gets hit up, the CVB gets hit up for doing things. And resources are always tight. So why couldn't I just do it? So I just did. I hate to say that, you know, like sounds so whatever, but
it's not though.
Sometimes you just have to make this choice, the sacrifice, and bite the bullet and make a leap. But you know, it's getting together, but even like I don't know how to say that. My goal is 200 people at this event, with 50 from rugby and 150 from surrounding communities. But again, like that's 150 women that maybe have or haven't been to rugby, haven't looked at it in the same light, see what we have going on.
Right.
And again, that back of my head is that they're going, oh, I could be here. I could bring a business to town, whatever it is. Or even just, I want to come back every year. Like, I don't know, but my goal is that this will be an annual event.
Yeah.
You know, and then the other thing I will say, this is probably my big dream, big town mentality to bring to small town, but I want it to be classy and elegant. Like this is going to be round table with linens and white chairs and a cool stage. Like I hope that when people walk in that they're going to be like, ooh, this isn't just like, you know, another random thing, you know, this is a big deal to be here.
Right.
So,
and I love that. So so obviously I work a lot with women in small towns, and we bring these events to small towns. Right. And normally they need women, like we need a lot of help with marketing an event. And because event planning, come on, it's a huge job, but like you love it. So it was really fun. Like when you and I started working together on this, like this isn't even a typical small town event that I would be a part of. Like I'm speaking at it, but you have it's like a full day agenda.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And what I love about, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, so you don't have to come to morning yoga. Like morning yoga is free. Like one of my speakers was like, well, can I have a free yoga session? I'm like, yeah. Hello.
So fun. Right. So fun.
From noon. So like if you're working, people, I keep reminding people, you don't have to take the whole day off. Come at noon for lunch. Right. And then that's when it really kicks off. And yes, make sure your husband is watching the kids, because we're going to go until 8:30, 9 o'clock at night.
Yep.
But sometimes you just need that refresher, that networking, that day with ladies, and remind yourself your self-worth, your ability, what you can bring to your community.
Right.
So,
and that's something that, you know, I just talked about on earlier this week's episode, was just as women, I think we do really tend to undervalue the skill sets that we have, especially the women that I know that maybe don't have full-time employment outside of the home, right? So, you know, you just get very mired down in that day-to-day grind of raising kids and all of that. And it's beautiful. It's super important work. But we often don't recognize or realize that all of those skills translate outside of the home too. Like that's project management at its finest. Like you're like juggling schedules and, you know, all the things you have to remember for children. Like you're a boss at project management if you have children, you know.
And you're someday raising other little leaders and bosses and husbands and wives, and to remember that. That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yep. But then even for women that there's a lot of mundane jobs out there that you just get up and you go to,
Right.
and you forget like that you can just get in that slump, and it's just another day mentality where no, this is what this idea is about, is just bringing joy and being full, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. I'm truly so excited to be a part of it. But I just, so even though we're talking about that event, because I get to come and hang out with you and all of that, all the women that choose to come, it really for me is with you specifically is more about just your orientation towards community development. Like that it isn't just the things that you do. It's not just, it's just the fact, like you own a Main Street business. That's a really big deal. But the way that you are literally like an evangelist for rugby, like you're practically walking around.
I just love rugby. I don't know. I came here as a little girl, and I do have that romanticized idea, and I just remember so many good, positive things. And I just hope everyone else has those memories and those feelings,
Well, and you're creating that for people now.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And that's the whole thing too. I don't know how you feel about this. We didn't talk about this specifically, but one of the things that I think a person like you and that kind of mentality to just be an ambassador for your small town, what I think that it does is it changes the way we think about even raising our kids, right? So it's interesting. I was reading this book. I went to this rural conference last year, and I got this book called, I think it's called Hollowing Out the Middle, and it's talking about rural America. It's talking about how, and I don't know if this is true for rugby, so I'm asking, but we talk to our kids, like especially our high school students, with the intention that they're going to leave. And not usually with any sort of like, oh, and by the way, after you go away for a while, like you go to school maybe, right? You go to college or you go wherever you're going to go after high school. I think leaving is always good. People get different perspectives. Their worldview shifts a little bit. But I don't know that we're coming back and saying, oh, but by the way, when you're ready, we're ready for you. We want you to come back, and like nurturing entrepreneurship and like tagging those kids, like looking for the kids that have the spark of it, right? Like, is that something that you ever think about? Because that's something that I think your very way of being can enhance or impact in a very positive way. Because I just don't think we are very intentional about that. We just assume they'll leave and not return.
I think rugby is really good about doing that, though. And I could be wrong. So my stepsons are both graduated, and I think that they will both come back to rugby. We'll be here permanently. That's the whole goal, and we talk about it. And one is at Minot State, and we always tease that he's going to come back and be the wrestling coach one day, and teach high school, whatever.
Right.
But I know there's a couple good teachers in the school program, and I do think that they push and recognize that there's a lot to offer here, and they have a couple new classes that they're taking, and trying to let them see what their potential is for rugby.
Okay.
And getting them involved.
If there was some intentional curriculum developed in that way, because I think that is something we are trying to make strides on that in our own community. That's something we talk a lot about.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important.
Because the one class won one of Doug Burgum's Main Street Initiative Awards.
I know. Yeah. I watched the whole video on it, and it was so cool. Can you tell a little bit about that? Because again, I think you and I, when we were visiting prior to recording, North Dakota is obviously, it's not a very big state, not a lot of people that live here. So when a small town is doing really exceptional things, you get on the radar, and you get on the radar quickly. Rugby, I think, has been pegged as a community that's shining in that regard. This event, or not event, this class and this teacher in particular, super cool. I would love for you to share it. And then the other thing we talked about was all the women-owned businesses. The article that we saw at our chamber, and we're like, what are they doing in rugby? It's kind of like what's in the water in rugby, but it's something that all small towns, if we want our community to thrive and be vibrant, we need to be thinking outside the box. And so will you share that story about what he did? And because it might spark some cool ideas for the women that are watching.
So it's basically on the history of downtown, from when it started and how it started, to nowadays of downtown. And then his class went into every business and learned about it, like learned the history of what was there, what is there. Like I got lucky and they asked me to come in and I talked about my building and why I opened the store and how I came to be. So these kids were getting feedback and being part of the community every day, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then they put it in a video format and they had a, what do you call it? You know, where people came to in the auditorium and watched it and got to speak. And yeah, it's just, I just think it was amazing. Yeah.
Well, it's really, really cool because I think
I know that teacher also has like other ideas. Like he too, if he was female, he'd be on your show.
Well, and I can have dudes on my show.
Oh,
if I need to have him on, maybe I'll do that, Ashley. Yeah.
So he too can like is forward thinking and let's get these kids involved. And he's talked about having like a volunteer class. This could be another topic for one day, but rugby volunteering is huge. If we didn't have people that were willing to volunteer, we would not survive.
Right. Well, I think honestly, that is small town America right there.
Yeah. Yes. You have to have people willing to do for free. Otherwise nothing would happen. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Oh, I'm totally going to connect with that guy when I come to you in April here. Maybe we can work it out and I can just at least meet him and say hello.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
That would be awesome.
He bought a building on right off of Main, one block. So he wants skin in the game to be part of Main Street. So
cool. See, I just love it so much. I'm so excited to come. Like I've never been to Rugby. Geographical center of North America, folks.
Right.
In case they didn't know, it's not just a small town. It's a very important small town in North Dakota. But yeah, your energy is so infectious. And let me ask you this, as somebody because you are clearly living big in your small town, Ashley. Like you are like the epitome of what that looks like to me. So do you have resistors?
Oh, I definitely think so. I don't think that they're in my bubble, so I don't think I see them.
Okay.
You know, but yes, by every means. There's always going to be someone. I guess I kind of ignore it because I think it's the resistors to me are jealousy / energy vampire suckers. You know, they don't have the energy to do something, so they do nothing. And instead of promoting people to do, they are just naysayers.
Right.
And I don't even give.
How do you protect yourself from that? Like, are there intentional things that you do? Because it can be very defeating sometimes, you know, depending on the scale of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You know, like an event, if people are kind of against an event, it's hard, but
yep.
You know, if it's a business idea or it's something like your work in county commission, right? Like, how do you, you know, is it just that you're careful about who you choose to collaborate with and align with, or what is kind of your strategy to that? Or are you just choose to rise above it no matter what, regardless of who you're around?
Yeah. I think the big thing is I will say in a small community, I don't have a lot of close friends. I'm acquaintances with everybody. So there's only a few that I really like open up to or break down to per se.
But you do have them.
Yes. Good. Obviously my biggest one is probably my husband, but at the same time, I feel like in a relationship, you cannot come home and vent every night either. So
you need people. I call them nesties. Yeah. It's a legit thing. Like you need them.
Yeah. Sometimes you just need to have a moment of diarrhea of the mouth and then you say, I got it out. I'm done. Like that's kind of think what I am between journaling maybe and just venting. Like my sister and I do it too, where she lives on the other side of Fargo and we'll just call, one of us will call and be like, I need 2 minutes to vent. I just need to get this off my chest. Yep. And then it's kind of just over. I don't know. Right. I don't know how I do that. I just do.
Yeah. Well, no,
it's because I've learned that if you dwell on negative, it just builds, you know? And I kind of sometimes can be that way too, in the sense that I am the kitchen sink person where like I let it go away or I push it away. And then one day that's when it does explode. And I've learned that. So I try not to, where I just
like truly suppress it. Yeah. Don't suppress it. Yeah.
So then I get it out in just some kind of form and then it can be gone.
Right.
Yep. But you're right. Like if someone says, oh, I heard this, but for the most part, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't hear it if it is going on.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, because I just think that's it's one of the challenges. And again, not to be like, where are the cranky people in your town? Because every town has them.
Yes. And we have or whatever, but I don't know. And my new thing, I will say this, I'm proud of over the last year. So like, I won't lie. I am not a fan of Facebook. I think it's too negative.
Yeah.
It's
right.
too easy for people to vent and whatnot. So I still get on it. I have a business on it. You kind of have to utilize it still nowadays.
Yep.
But if I get on and I start scrolling and I see something that negative, or I feel that jerk in my heart where I'm like, I don't like this, that's when I shut it down. I just shut it off. And then I go do something productive versus wasting 45 minutes of time.
Engaging in stuff that makes you feel crappy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
No, I think that's really, really important. Because like clearly my business, I do social media is a huge part of, it's my ability to meet you and connect with people. Like it's a huge deal, but I've had to be really, really careful about that too, because it takes me down such a dark path, even if it's not local stuff. It's just people they're vile. And I'm like, I can't give you the energy for this. Like, yeah, it's really hard. So,
well, and my husband laughs at me because I truly kind of dislike the word empowering, because that's what you hear so much right now. Women empower. But then you're on Facebook and women are tearing women down and doing bad to them or talking behind their back or whatever the case is. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. You just posted something about empowering women. So that word is just kind of dead to me almost, where it's like, no, let's just lift each other and bring each other joy. Right. And you know, if you
each other, slow down enough to really see each other and value and honor, like the honor in me honors the honor in you, or is it the value in me honors the value in you? That kind of a thing where it's just like, I know that I have value, I know that you have value, and we can come together and just hold space for that. Like that doesn't happen very often because everybody's hustling around, doing their stuff, which is great. We're all busy. Yep. But that's why like your retreat day is it's just going to be so lovely, I'm
so excited.
I know. I'm excited too. It's going to be such a great time. So my last question, just about how you've been able to do so many amazing things, and so how big is Rugby, by the way?
About 2,800.
Okay. Yeah. So it is a little bit, it's bigger than my community, but still like by most standards.
You have a street light.
I do. We do. One stoplight. I know. I love that. That was so few. Like, what? You have stoplights? I'm like, one, we do.
But it's so pretty.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's because we're right on the state highway, and then it's right by our school. So people had to lobby hard to get that in because it was kind of a scary and not safe intersection for our little people. So anyway, my last just kind of question, because you're a mover and shaker and you get stuff done, how much of it for you is partnering with other people? Like, are you really intentional about finding like-minded people and then trying to do things where you're collaborating? Or, talk to me a little bit for you about collaboration in your small town and what that looks like.
Yes and no. With business, there's a couple businesses like on my street that I love working with. Like the more we do together, like when we have ladies' nights and stuff like that, it's fun. It brings more people out than just one store having a sale or whatever the case might be.
So how many of you, how often do you do that? And like, how many of you are there that kind of group up?
I would say there's probably 7 businesses, 3 to 4 that are really, really strong.
Very cool.
That work together. Yes. And that's the great part too. Like I kind of have a spiel when I come in, when there's new people to Rugby, I'm like, oh, don't forget to stop here, here, and here. And I have this little like map in my mind when I tell people businesses that are to go to, and don't forget,
that's okay. So again, I don't want to take you off topic because I ask you a question and then I interrupt you like 15 times with my thoughts, but that's something too, that again, I was saying that this idea of, oh gosh, like, no, there's nothing else to do here kind of a thing, which people tend to say. But when you are in a position where you are a business in the community and you are serving visitors, the mindset should absolutely be that. Like, how do I encourage them to stop at other places? Like, ask them what brought you to town, ask them how much time they have, and then say, oh, hey, don't forget to check these things out,
Yeah.
That's
I had a customer, I don't want to go on tangents. I don't know how much time we have, but I had a
no, we have all
customer
the time in the world. We're good.
that dropped her animal off at the local vet to do something, and she stopped in, and she too didn't really know about rugby and what there was. So I told her. She came in the next day and said, I didn't have time for everything, so I came back.
And you went, yeah, you did.
My day.
Oh, see, but it's such a great example, Ashley, because I'm telling you, I think for the next month for our chamber, we're going to be doing a customer service focus, like the idea of, because that's what we're talking about, like
right,
being almost hospitality oriented.
Yes.
In how we talk to people that don't live here, you know? Because it's so easy to get really complacent and just like transactionally do your stuff. But these are small tweaks that every single business owner can make.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and what if she moved to Rugby? Because of, you know, like she just went, oh my gosh, not only did I come back the next day, but I really started thinking about, you just never know where people are at. And we have to be the ambassadors for it.
Yes. And people sometimes they're wanting that change, but they don't know that they need it or want it. And then they see something like that, like, right? Someone asked me to move to Rugby, you know, maybe it's all of a sudden it takes that mindset. So
100%. Yeah, I totally agree.
Right.
So, so you had started to say that on the business side of things, you do collaborate.
Yeah.
When does it feel like it doesn't help you to collaborate? Because you said yes and no, right?
It might be partially just my like doer mentality.
That's okay. Yep, that's okay.
But like this women's event, like I have orchestrated it, but at the same time, I will need help and volunteers. And I've kind of have some ideas of people in my brain, but I haven't asked yet because I want to make sure that if they want to go to the event, they can go to the event as a person, but instead of a volunteer, because again, the volunteers are always the same people. But you know, we'll need a few people here and there to introduce breakout speakers. I can't be at 3 places at once. I know that. You know, and then I'll have private events in the store. So of course that's not really going to help others.
Sure.
And whatnot. But, and then like anything chamber and CVB and whatnot is always everybody, you know, we try and get as many businesses involved as possible. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, sometimes having a doer mentality is the mindset of, well, I'll just do it myself, which I totally get. And I think if you have that mentality, more people should just do some things on their own. Not that you wouldn't, you know, you're going to need help promoting it. Like if you have a business and you're doing, like, you're going to share it and get people involved, but it's not necessarily.
Well, and I think sometimes when you're on boards or like even the businesses, we were getting together in the morning and stuff, but sometimes what happens is you get too many people and then there can't be a concentration of what we're really going to do. We have all these ideas and it doesn't ever get implemented.
Right.
Where if you just have one person doing it, it gets done.
Yep, exactly. So. I think I love this chat, of course, because I think you are so inspiring and I'm so honored that I get to be a part of your retreat. So excited. And so I'm really thrilled. I'm excited to hear what people are going to say about this because you've given some serious, and there's practical stuff in here too. Right. I mean, I get that this is partly just how you're wired. And if I could clone you, well, for sure, if I could clone about 6 of you and pop them in my small town, I'd be thrilled to pieces. But I mean, this is the mentality that I think there are more people like you out there than we realize. They just need permission sometimes to like get out there and just do things. And you are a shining example of that. So thank you so much, not just for what you're doing for Rugby, for including me in your big day, but
I'm so excited. We're going to have so much fun when you come.
Oh my gosh, I know. I cannot wait. I'm going to have to come 2 days before so I can actually have the time to get all the stuff done.
Right? Exactly.
It's going to be awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley.
Thank you.
Like me, you returned to your hometown. Maybe it was 2 years later, maybe it was 6 months later, maybe it's been decades later. But no matter what, you're considered a boomerang. You're somebody that left and came back. And with that comes all the feelings of uncertainty about, will they accept me as who I am now? Are they going to get that I'm a grown person? It's quite tricky. And so I've created a small town survival kit just for you in mind as a returner check it out. It is bound to make you feel less lonely, less isolated, and not as crazy as you feel like you are.